There's a quiet truth that sneaks up on us after 70. It isn't about grand gestures or dramatic changes. It's the small, almost invisible habits that shape our days, and, quietly, our future. I learned this not from a doctor's lecture, but from watching my neighbor, Ruth, who seemed to age in reverse while the rest of us just tried to keep up. If you're over 50, you might wonder, what really matters most as the years stack up? Let me share what I discovered, and why these 5 daily habits might quietly decide the health you'll enjoy tomorrow. This video is for general educational and inspirational purposes only. Please reflect and consult professionals when applying life lessons. It was the spring after my 71st birthday, a season that should have felt full of promise. Instead, I found myself drifting through the days, unsure of how to fill the hours that used to be packed with work and family obligations. Retirement had arrived, and with it, a strange sense of emptiness. My mornings stretched out, quiet and unhurried, but also a little lonely. That's when I started noticing Ruth, my neighbor across the street. She was 82, always up early, tending to her small garden or waving to the mail carrier. There was something about her, an ease in her movements, a lightness in her step, that made me curious. One morning, Ruth invited me over for coffee. I hesitated at first, but her invitation was warm and genuine. Her home was filled with sunlight and the gentle scent of blooming lilacs. We sat on her porch, mugs in hand, watching the world wake up. I noticed how she moved, slowly, but with purpose. She had a way of making even the smallest actions feel meaningful. As we talked, I realized Ruth had a rhythm to her days. She wasn't rushing or trying to do everything at once. Instead, she followed a handful of simple routines, each one woven quietly into her morning. That day, I watched as she stretched her arms overhead before breakfast, took a short stroll around her yard, and paused to jot a note to a friend. There was no fanfare, no talk of health hacks or miracle cures. Just a gentle, steady pattern that seemed to anchor her. I found myself wondering if these small habits were the secret to her energy and contentment. It was a moment that made me reflect on my own routines, or lack thereof, and what I might learn from someone who seemed to have found her own quiet formula for living well. Ruth never sat me down to give advice, and she certainly didn't preach about what I should or shouldn't do. Instead, she simply lived her life in a way that spoke volumes. Over time, I began to notice the quiet consistency in her days. Each morning, she would stretch gently before breakfast, reaching her arms to the ceiling and rolling her shoulders with a soft sigh. It wasn't a workout, just a way to greet the day and loosen her joints. After lunch, she'd slip on her old walking shoes and stroll around the block, sometimes stopping to chat with neighbors or admire a blooming flower. Her pace was unhurried, but she never missed her walk, rain or shine. In the afternoons, Ruth would sit at her kitchen table and write a short note or postcard to a friend or family member. Sometimes it was just a line or two, but it kept her connected to people she cared about. Before dinner, she'd pause for a moment of gratitude, closing her eyes and quietly reflecting on something good that had happened that day, no matter how small. And every evening, she'd settle into her favorite chair with a book, reading a chapter or two before bed. These habits weren't dramatic or difficult, but they gave her days a gentle structure. Watching Ruth, I realized that the future isn't shaped by occasional bursts of effort or big resolutions. It's the small, daily choices, often unnoticed by others, that quietly build the foundation for our health and happiness. Her habits weren't about chasing youth or avoiding every ache and pain. They were about honoring her body, nurturing her mind, and staying connected to the world around her. That was the lesson. The quiet power of daily routines to shape the life we'll live tomorrow. When I first tried to follow Ruth's example, I'll admit I felt a bit awkward. Stretching before breakfast seemed almost too simple to matter, and writing a note to a friend felt old-fashioned in a world of quick texts and emails. But I decided to give it a real chance, starting with just one habit at a time. I began each morning with a gentle stretch, reaching my arms overhead and taking a few deep breaths. It was a small act, but it helped me feel more awake and present. After a week, I added a short walk after lunch, just around the block. The fresh air and movement lifted my spirits, and I started to look forward to that quiet time outside. As the days passed, I noticed subtle changes. My mood was lighter, and I felt less stiff in the mornings. I started writing short notes to old friends, and to my surprise, many wrote back. Those little connections brought warmth to my days and reminded me that I wasn't alone, even in retirement. Taking a moment for gratitude before dinner helped me focus on the good things, even on days that felt ordinary or slow. Reading before bed became a peaceful ritual, helping me wind down and sleep more soundly. These habits didn't transform my life overnight, but they gave my days a gentle rhythm and purpose. I realized that health after 70 isn't just about avoiding illness. It's about finding small ways to care for ourselves, body and mind. For anyone in their 50s, 60s, or beyond, it's easy to feel like the big changes are behind us. But these quiet, daily choices reminded me that we still have the power to shape our future, one simple habit at a time. Sometimes, Ruth would share little stories as we sat together, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She told me about her younger years, when she was too busy raising children and working to think much about daily routines. It wasn't until her late 60s, after her husband passed away, that she realized how much the small things mattered. She said the days felt long and empty at first, but she started adding gentle structure, one habit at a time, until her life felt full again. She never tried to overhaul everything at once. Instead, she picked one thing, like her morning stretch, and made it part of her day until it felt natural. Only then did she add another. Ruth's walks became a way to notice the world around her. She'd point out the first daffodils in spring or the changing colors of the leaves in autumn. Sometimes, she'd invite a neighbor to join her, turning a simple stroll into a chance for conversation. Her habit of writing notes kept her friendships alive, even with people she hadn't seen in years. She said it was a way to let others know they mattered, and it made her feel connected too. Her gratitude practice was quiet and personal. She didn't keep a journal or make a big show of it. She simply paused, closed her eyes, and thought of one thing she appreciated each day. It could be something as small as a good cup of coffee or a phone call from her daughter. Reading before bed, she said, was her way of ending the day on a peaceful note, letting her mind wander into new stories and ideas. Each habit, though simple, became a thread that wove comfort, connection, and meaning into her everyday life. Looking back, I see how those small, daily habits quietly shaped the course of my later years. They didn't require special equipment, expensive memberships, or dramatic changes. Just a willingness to show up for myself in gentle, consistent ways. The routines I learned from Ruth became anchors in my days, giving me something to look forward to and a sense of accomplishment, no matter how ordinary the day seemed. Over time, these habits helped me feel more grounded and less anxious about the future. I found that my body responded to the gentle stretches and walks, staying more flexible and comfortable. My mind felt clearer, and my heart lighter, as I made space for gratitude and connection. The beauty of these habits is how quietly they work in the background, almost unnoticed, until you realize how much they've given you. They don't promise to erase every ache or guarantee perfect health, but they do offer a sense of agency and hope. I noticed that even on difficult days, when energy was low or worries crept in, the simple act of keeping to my routine brought comfort. It was a reminder that I could still shape my days, no matter my age. As the seasons changed, I found myself looking forward to the little rituals that marked each part of the day. The morning stretch became a gentle wake-up call, the walk a chance to breathe and notice the world, the note a bridge to someone I cared about. Gratitude helped me see the good, and reading gave me a peaceful close to each evening. These habits, though quiet and unassuming, became the foundation for a life that felt meaningful and well-lived. They taught me that after 70, it's the small, steady choices that quietly decide the health and happiness of our future.